Hello there, sword friends. Today I have a fun sword to share with you, an oldie but a goodie, not one that you can get anymore, so keep in mind that the purpose of this review is really to show you just the build quality of this sword. This is an Angus Trim Type 1555. It's a little older, 10, 15, 20 years old, I'm not exactly sure at this point. But Angus Trim was a very good sword maker throughout the duration really of his career, but his designs are refined in such a way that the newer stuff commands and certainly warrants a higher price point. This is a older piece from Angus Trim, the 1555, known as, I think, the Gothic War Sword, or it's a Type 18A, at least from what I've been able to read. In any respect, I'm not familiar with those types of things. I don't exactly know how to classify the sword. I can just kind of reiterate and regurgitate some of the things that I've been able to read about it. The point is, though, that it's a fun, awesome, cool sword, deceptively light. I'll tell you about it, but honestly, I want to just show you the build quality, mostly because I see secondhand Angus Trim swords come up for sale pretty frequently, and many of his older pieces are commanding higher and higher price points because his newer pieces do. But I think there's an evolution of sorts. Unlike, say, Albion swords, which have been pretty consistent throughout the years, they were designed and manufactured, and an Albion from 10 years ago is likely very similar to an Albion that's manufactured today with, I mean, there's some question about that perhaps, but for the most part it's the same model. Angus has refined his designs, and I don't think he makes one like this anymore, but the designs, the manufacturing, his overall level of aptitude as a craftsman, which you would hope to see grow, has improved. And so what he's producing today is worth $1,100 or $1,000 plus, or whatever he's charging. This one, I don't know that I would pay the same amount were it for sale secondhand, or that I would expect it to be in the same category. The pieces that he made 10 or 15 years ago were not finished the same way and were not as refined, and while they are fantastic swords and certainly worth your attention, I'd hesitate if they were being, priced in the same ballpark as his newer wares. Anyway, this one, I hope, gives you some idea of what to expect from some of the older pieces, and I'll start with the pommel down here. I'm not exactly sure what this kind of disc yo-yo shaped pommel is, but I do have to say I really like it. The attention to detail is, well, there's not really a ton of detail on it other than its shape, but I do like how it rests in my hands. It hasn't rusted a lot over time, and to give you some idea about usage on this sword, this is kind of the sword I use for guests. I like to swing it around, it's fun, I chop water bottles with it. It's been used quite significantly, and I bought it secondhand. Presumably the previous owner used it as well. Anyway, the pommel is fixed on with a hex nut. I've never had to tighten it, though there are some things that maybe make me think I should. For example, there's a little rattle inside the tang here, where inside the guard. I don't know that that's going to go away with the tightening, but maybe it could. Anyway, it's an option there, and that hex nut construction makes me forgive a few things, because I could technically take it apart and clean it. I digress. I haven't ever had to tighten it. It's held up through lots of cuts, lots of swings, and I like the design of the pommel. I like how it fits in my hand. I also like how the pommel meets the grip, and I don't know if this grip is original or not, though I would speculate it is. There's not a lot of gunk or goo. It just meets up and transitions very, very well. There's no ledges, nothing bites on my bare hands. It's not like I have to wear a glove to manipulate the thing. And this cylindrical pommel meets up with the guard, and it's cylindrical on the guard. The guard then transitions into a kind of elliptical shape that lets me index with my main hand. This is a very comfortable guard, and it's really held up exceedingly well over time. The guard, I believe, is made with linen bound over a wood core, then covered in wood. At least that's my assumption. But really, I'm surprised at how well it's held up. Not that I use it every week, but I certainly cut with it quite a bit. And again, it's secondhand, but it's just held up. It's not torn. And there was a flap of leather, a seam here that stands out perhaps more than I would like. But at the same time, it hasn't come loose. It hasn't come undone. It's not a bad thing at all. It's really held up exceedingly well, and the transitions into the other parts on the hilt assembly seem quite good. Overall, the construction has been pretty good. The crossguard, simple shape. I can make out a lot of grinding lines on here. Again, I don't know that that's what you would expect to see on a newer Angus Trim piece, but on this one, the grind lines are pretty apparent. But nevertheless, you could take this apart. The hex nut is something that could come undone, and if you wanted to refine and sand it and spend time doing that, that would be something that's possible without scratching the blade and messing things up. And really, that hex nut assembly makes me even forgive this kind of larger hole in the crossguard here. Water and whatnot can get down there if you're chopping water bottles and you're a backyard ninja like myself. But if you can take it apart to clean it, then I'm less concerned about whatever else might fall down there. It's unsightly, and Albion has certainly set the bar in terms of how close manufacturing tolerances can be to get the blade set in the crossguard. But here, it's at least even. It's not perfect, it's unsightly, but it's not necessarily bad given what I think you should expect to pay for a sword like this. The blade is also kind of the showstopper here, what everyone's interested in. It's a giant 39-inch blade, and man, is it fun to swing around. The other bit I would note is that the grind lines on this sword are actually really, really good. I don't know what Angus was doing back in the day to get these swords ground, but his central ridge is very, very even. It doesn't really wander at all, which is surprising, and it's really pretty flat. The grind lines and whatnot on here are deceptively flat. It has a large secondary bevel on the edge, and the blade is finished in what appears to be of, I don't know, 600 or 800 grit type of a belt sander. It's not super refined, not mirror polished, but it doesn't have to be. Cutting wise, though, I'll tell you, this is really fun. I've used it some. I only have footage from the first time I used it. I don't know why I haven't really captured a whole lot more of me using this sword, because I have swung it around at a lot of things, and man, it's deceptively fun and surprisingly good at cutting. Anyway, that's the gist of the video I had. The main point was that these swords are great. They're worth your attention and worth your ownership if you find them for the right price. In my mind, Angus Trim sells his new stuff anyway for around $1,000, more, maybe $1,500. So if you see something in that ballpark for a second-hand sword, then it may be worth just buying a brand new one from Angus Trim, because I think he's got a refined process down, and his new wares are an order of magnitude better than these. But they're still worth your attention. If you see them for sale for somewhere between $300 and $700, that ballpark, depending on the state of the sword and which one it is and all of that different stuff, I think they're totally worth your attention. Anyway, those are my thoughts as somebody that likes sharp, pointy, stabby things. And obviously, I really hesitate to put any type of monetary value on what you should or shouldn't spend. Buy whatever you like. And honestly, every sword is a little different. Some are more refined. Maybe somebody did a lot of custom work or something really cool to an old Angus Trim sword. Maybe it has some other story that warrants the price. I'm certainly not saying that every sword out there should be between this and that if it's made by Angus Trim at such and such a time. But if you see something from this general type sword, whether it be this or a different model or one like it, I do think Angus Trim's long swords have evolved quite a bit in their profile and their dynamics, and I've held some of the newer stuff and I prefer it. Well, this is really fun and I have no regrets about owning it. I would certainly say if you see it advertised for $1,100, it's probably best to buy a brand new one from Angus Trim. At least those are my thoughts. I hope that makes sense. I hope the video's been interesting, and as always, cheers and thanks for watching.